I'm joined today by Joy Sorenson Navarre, president of Navigate Student Loans, a nationally renowned educator and expert on student loan relief. She's helped thousands of physicians figure out the best repayment options and save time, stress, and money. So in fact, Navigate's clients are on track to save over $330 million on their student loans. And so we understand that loan repayment is complex. Your loan servicers are often making mistakes, and lots of social media influencers have opinions that aren't necessarily correct. So we've invited Joy to present so you have the factual information you need to make decisions and give you the opportunity to get your questions answered from an expert. So welcome, Joy. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yes. All right, and a quick background on Provider Solutions and Development. PS&D is the nationally recognized recruiting arm of Providence St. Joseph Health System. And after working with our internal Providence residents for years, it was evident that there is a gap in resident preparedness for the job market. So the outreach team was established not to recruit, but to fill the knowledge gap that exists in your job seeking preparations by bringing forward resources delivered to you in an accessible way so that you can be proactive and show up to recruiting conversations equipped to put your best foot forward. So today we will be covering public service loan forgiveness, a limited waiver opportunity, and refinance. And we're going to leave a nice chunk of time for Q&A because Joy is the expert here. We want to make sure you leave this hour with your questions answered. So with that, Joy, I will turn it over to you.
My pleasure to be here with you today. I'm coming to you, well, today from Philadelphia, but usually from St. Paul, Minnesota. And St. Paul's, Minnesota is the place where tragically George Floyd lost his life at the hands of police a couple of years ago now. It's also the place of strong resistance to racism and strong impetus towards health equity. So I like to start every conversation by just thanking the folks in the audience for their commitment to health equity and just acknowledge the times we're in to know that if we all work together, good times are ahead here. Emily, are you showing the slides?
I am so sorry. I thought I was. So we're going to get this up here right now. All right. Do you see that now?
Sure do.
Okay, my apologies.
No problem. So we have our first poll today. Do you want to go ahead, Emily, with that? We love to hear, and as Emily said, I very much would love to hear your questions. And so if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. Emily is going to be moderating the chat and she'll be bringing the questions forward during the conversation. So don't be hesitant to ask a question. This is your time to get all of your questions answered.
All right. Please do take a quick second to enter your to answer this poll, please. Okay, I think results are in, Joy.
All right, thank you. Can the audience see the results? Yes?
No, we can't see them.
Okay, so let me tell you what the results are.
Yeah.
Thank you. So about 30% of respondents had student loans in the realm of $200,000 to $400,000. And another big group was from $100,000 to $200,000, and then a few under 100 and a few over 400. So interesting because when we consult with physicians all across the country, the first thing they do is send us their official list of loans, their TXT file from studentaid.gov. And when I open that up, I'm expecting to see 250 to 450,000. So the group that is in the power hour today is representative, I would say, of folks across the country. But we see more than that and less than that. Those numbers aren't the outliers. So if you're in that group, you've got a lot of good company. We see 550, 650. The most we've ever seen is it was 876,000, I think it was. A physician in family medicine who had 2 degrees, who had to spend a lot of time in training. And she was very worried about her student loans with good reason. But we worked with her. She's got a great plan and she is going to be fine. And so that's my overall message today, that student loans, well, they can be stressful and sometimes we perhaps not want to be thinking about them. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and we've seen a lot of success with folks making good plans to go forward on their student loans. This is one of my favorite slides. So this is actually a screenshot from one of our clients just within the last month, who had been working with us for quite a while. And all of a sudden one day I opened up my email and I had this message from him. So this was a provider, we'll talk about him in a minute, that was using the limited waiver for public service loan forgiveness. And all of a sudden he got this message that his loan balance had been completely forgiven and his new balance was 0. So let's dig into his story. So this was Dr. Ben, we'll call him. He had heard that he was ineligible for public service loan forgiveness. This was a physician who had graduated from medical school many years ago. He had tried to get public service loan forgiveness. He was denied. Now, those of you who are in the room today, we'll find out a little later how long ago since you graduated from medical school. But if you're a recent grad or about to graduate, you may have colleagues or professors or faculty that are have been out of school for a while, and they might have student loans. So I'll just ask you, have a conversation about student loans when you have a chance at the water cooler or wherever, because there are some exciting things happening right now for a limited time. And so Dr. Ben, he saw us at a conference, and one of his friends said, "Oh, you've got to talk to them about your student loans." And he didn't want to, because he had already done quite a bit of work on his loans and knew that he wasn't eligible for anything other than what he was doing. If you go back to the previous slide, please. So he met with us, and he had to take 2 steps to become eligible for this forgiveness. One was to consolidate his loans into a direct consolidation loan, and the other was to send in a employment certification form for public service loan forgiveness. And then it took many months of waiting for the processing to happen. And then finally one day he opened up his email, and there was that email about $0 balance. That was Dr. Ben's story. So let's go forward and just look at the financial pressure. So if you have $300,000 of medical education debt, the borrower's monthly payments will be $3,500. So I think that not everyone who's perhaps in administration or other roles in a health system realize how much financial pressure physicians are under now. This would be a payment under a 10-year standard plan, not a forgiveness plan or an income-driven repayment plan, but the 10-year standard plan. And so when physicians tell us that one of the reasons they're feeling stressed and burned out is that they have insufficient income, and yet we know that physicians are making decent incomes, I think what's happening is these big student loan payments are making them feel like their cash flow isn't going as far as they thought it would. So that's one of the things that I'm glad to be here with you today to help you figure out some strategies to reduce that cash flow crunch. So right now, for the last 2 years, we've been under the COVID national forbearance, which means that if you have federal loans, interest rates are all at 0%. All payments have been paused, and all of those months will be months that qualify for either public service loan forgiveness or the 20 to 25-year forgiveness under the income-driven repayment plans. If you are someone who made a payment since March 13th, 2020, and you intend to pursue public service loan forgiveness, it could be a smart idea to call your loan servicing company and ask for a refund of any payments you had made. If you're pursuing public service loan forgiveness, those payments were not required, and actually you'd be spending money you didn't need to on your student loans. Easy to do. The other thing about the national forbearance is that it's going to be ending August 31st. A lot of pundits are thinking that it will be extended again. And so it certainly could be. If it does happen, it'll be in the news, so you'll see it then. The important thing to watch for, not only in terms of monthly payments, but also those income-driven repayment plan annual certifications, those are not due under the national forbearance. And so they've all been extended and will be extended again by 12 months in the event the payment pause is extended. So this is really important for folks that might be early on in residency or transitioning from residency to practice, where you're going to have a big jump in income, because the income certifications are the time when you send in, you document your income, and then they recalculate your payment for the next 12 months. So there are probably people on the call that are on a $0 payment on an income-driven repayment plan because they signed up for their plan right after medical school. And then because of the forbearance, they haven't had to make any payments. And so that $0 official payment will still carry on after the payment pause is over, unless you have recertified. So if you have recertified, that's something else that you could reverse in many cases. That sometimes is hard to do by a phone call to your loan servicing company. So in that case, reach out to us. My email will be at the end of these slides here, and we'll help you figure out how to do that. All right. Let's just pause just real quick. Emily, do we have any questions about the COVID forbearance in our chat?
No questions at the moment. Please
All right.
feel free to drop questions in the chat, and we'll pull those as you do.
Okay. If you'd go back to the last slide, I'm going to not poll, but ask the folks gathered, what are the qualifications? Quick, go back. Oh, that's forward, go back. To for public service loan forgiveness, because I'm sure there are many people in the Power Hour that have done their research about public service loan forgiveness. So drop into the chat for us, please. What are the requirements for public service loan forgiveness? And while you're thinking about that, I think we do have a chat question. Should we take that now?
Yes. So one question here is, so for residents about to graduate, is it more beneficial?
We'll wait for the rest of that question. So feel free to drop the rest of the question in, and we'll go back to the public service loan forgiveness criteria, but don't move the slide forward yet, Emily. So you must work for a nonprofit, absolutely. Or you could work for a government organization like the VA or a county or a state-funded organization or a tribal agency. The second must be you have to be on a qualifying repayment plan, and those typically are those income-driven repayment plans. You have to make 120 on-time monthly payments, correct? There's one more. Let's see, let's go to the next slide now, Emily, and we'll give it away, shall we? All right, it's that you must have the right kind of loans. So they're federal loans, but more specifically, federal direct loans. All right.
Got a question here as well, Joy. If loans are consolidated with a non-physician, is it possible to qualify for public service loan forgiveness?
I am not understanding that question. So there used to be many years ago the possibility to consolidate your loans with your spouse's loans. That opportunity went away, I think, a decade ago, because we don't see that happening anymore. And I'm wondering if that is the question. And if so, I don't, we'd have to check on that. If I've misunderstood the question, you're wondering if you could consolidate both your undergrad with your graduate loans and still be eligible. The answer to that question is yes.
So in this, in this situation, the loan was with an ex-spouse, and so is it possible for public service loan forgiveness, or if not, is it possible to deconsolidate?
Yeah, gotcha. So these were old loans. Excellent. Yes, we just had a case just working on it last month, the same situation. It was a divorced couple. They had consolidated their loans together, and they were eligible for public service loan forgiveness. So yes, it's not possible to deconsolidate, but if the current loan holder is qualifying and the loans are direct loans and they make the right number of payments, then yes, public service loan forgiveness is a good option.
Awesome. And Dr. Lever has the full question now ready for you. Question regarding the IDR recertification. So for a resident about to graduate and go into private practice, is it more beneficial to recertify right before graduating? i.e., do you have the 12 months of IDR plan based on your residency income and not your new post-residency income?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. It totally depends on whether there'll be a new extension of the COVID forbearance. And it also depends on sort of the month that your recertification is due. So we have a special calculator we've built especially for this question because it's not as straightforward as you think. And every time I guess, half the time I'm wrong. So we would want to throw the numbers in the calculator to figure out which way is more beneficial. But I like how you're thinking, right? The idea of making sure your payments stay as low as possible for as long as possible, that's absolutely the strategy. And Emily, I don't know if we have a way to email. So if this physician would like to email me his information, we can throw his dates and amounts into our calculator and then send the information back to everyone on the call at a future time. Is that possible?
That is possible, yes.
All right, so happy to do that. If the person with a question wouldn't mind sending me some more details.
Perfect. All right.
I love all these great questions. All right, shall we continue on?
Yes, go for it.
All right, so if you could advance the slide, please. All right, so this is the problem with public service loan forgiveness. Lots and lots of people have applied in the blue, and in the green, very few people have gotten it. The most recent data available at with the Department of Education is September of last year. They have not updated their record or their accounting since then. But from 2017 until October of 2021, only 2% of the people who had applied for public service loan forgiveness had achieved it. And so that's why we've seen a lot of loosening of regulations just for a limited time period. There's a lot of action happening at the Department of Education to hold loan servicing companies accountable because of all the mistakes and illegal actions they were making. So public service loan forgiveness can be a terrific program. If it's something that you're counting on, you need to be very careful that you're paying attention to what's going on internal to your account and paying attention to the letters you're getting from your loan servicing company. One of the cool things about the work that we do is if one of our customers gets a funny email or letter that they don't understand because it's full of jargon, they just send it over to us and we read it and let them know if it's just a standard automated letter or if it's a problem and needs to be addressed. So it's always nice to have a little help on that end. Yeah, so this is a great program, but it also can be filled with hassle. So it's not the best program for everyone. Some of the hassle is related to the income-driven repayment plan problems. So I just wanted to tell a couple of stories here, Emily, about things that we have seen that might be helpful to our listeners. The first is the question of, okay, so I'm married to somebody who also has, a large income. If we file married jointly and I'm on an income-driven repayment plan, it'll really increase my payment. Is it better to file our taxes married separately? That is a really common strategy to use. I see it in the folks that we work with that it's often overused, and there are some people that are filing taxes separately that really would not need to. And the reason that is a problem is that if you file taxes married separately, you're likely going to pay more in taxes than you would have to if you filed married jointly. So just a general rule of thumb, if you are married to a borrower and you both have about the same amount of student debt and about the same amount of income, relatively speaking, often it's not necessary to file married separately to have the smallest repayment plan amount. So that's something just to be aware of and to run your numbers to find out which is going to be better given the income tax, the additional income taxes you might pay by filing separately. Related to the income-driven repayment plan recertifications, they have all been extended, and we talked about that a little earlier, so we can go forward now. And we addressed this one already, and how about the next one? This is a reminder about filing your annual recertification. So many of you might not yet be in the habit of renewing your income-driven repayment plan, your repay or your pay repayment plan annually. And so you might not know that if you miss that due date, it's due every 12 months under regular time, your monthly payment will bump up from whatever it is right now. And if you're in residency, your payment might be $0 or $70 or maybe $300, a very small payment compared to what you would have to pay otherwise. And if you miss that recertification date, your payment automatically bumps up to your standard 10-year amount, which for many people with $300,000 would be $3,000 a month. And when you're set up on auto deduction, auto debit from your bank account, which is the way to go, by the way, I'll tell you why in a minute, and that money gets pulled out of your account unexpectedly, it is a very stressful situation. You can get the money back, you can stop payments, you can have them refund it back into your account by taking a month of forbearance and requesting the refund. But it is frightening to have that happen to your bank account. And so my recommendation is that when recertifications start up again, give yourself a window of about 2 to 3 months. So do that recertification early, and you usually get a reminder from your loan servicing company 100 days prior to the event that it's due. And when you get that, I would just hop on that right away. Great. The other thing that's important to know about public service loan forgiveness is to submit your employment certification form. In the last year and a half, they've opened up a new tool called the PSLF Help Tool, and you find that at studentaid.gov/PSLF. The reason it is beneficial for people to use this tool rather than finding a PDF online is that there's a pre-verification that happens. And so you skip the manual verification of your employer, which can take up to 6 or 7 months right now. And instead your pre-verification happens, and we've seen the forms come back approved within as little as 10 days instead of 6 months. So best practice today is to use the help tool to generate your form. You'll need your employer's EIN number to do that, to fill out the form, and a couple of signatures, and you'll be done. Here's a picture of the form, and on the bottom here, under section 2, if you go back just one slide, are 2 boxes that sometimes confuse people. So I just want to go through this with you quickly. So section 2, the first box says, I just want to know how many qualifying payments I have and if my employer is a qualified employer. That's the box that you will click every time you're submitting this form until you've made your 120th payment. And after you've made your 120th payment, you'll click the second box that says, I believe I qualify for forgiveness right now, meaning that I've made 120 on-time monthly payments. There's been a lot of confusions about those 2 boxes, and so I just wanted to make sure that the borrowers saw that. All right, we can go forward. These are really important, number 7 and number 8. So to qualify for public service loan forgiveness, your employment status must be full-time as defined by your employer and at least 40 hours a week, which probably won't be hard for our listeners here. Sometimes physicians are looking for, once they're in their attending position, shorter hours or a shorter work week. And that totally can be possible to qualify for public service loan forgiveness as long as that employment status is considered full-time by your employer. So if you're job hunting and you're thinking that perhaps in the future you would like to work a shorter work week, and they perhaps might offer you a 0.8 instead of a 1.0 FTE, make sure you ask your physician recruiter, is that considered full-time by this organization? Because if it's considered full-time and it's at least 30 hours, you're fine for public service loan forgiveness. But if it's considered part-time by the employer, and even if you're working 32, 34 hours, that will not qualify you for public service loan forgiveness. It must be full-time employment, at least 30 hours a week. A poll. Here's our second poll. Please take a minute and let us know, how long ago did you graduate medical school? Give it just a couple more seconds. Looks like we've got about half of the folks responding. All right, so it looks like 71% under 5 years ago, a few that haven't yet graduated, and then 6% 6 to 10 years ago, and 12% between 11 and 20 years ago. Thank you for participating in our poll. I appreciate that. So the reason we asked that is because there is something new called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Limited Waiver Opportunity. This started in October. It lasts only 1 year. It'll be finished October 31st of this year. And it's a relaxing of the rules for public service loan forgiveness. So the only rule that remains in place is that you must be working for a qualified employer. The rules that have been loosened are type of payment and type of loan. So a lot of folks have those older loans, those FFEL loans that don't qualify for public service loan forgiveness. At this time, you can take one step, consolidate those loans to a direct consolidation loan, and then all of the payments you made on those older loans will count towards your 120 months of payments. And it doesn't matter what repayment plan you were on. A lot of folks 10 to 20 years ago were on the extended repayment plan, because back then interest rates were very low on federal student loans, 2 or 3%. And so the best practice at that time was to take the extended repayment plan. No longer the best practice, because interest rates today are 6.5% and higher. So for those that were on those types of repayment, that type of repayment didn't count under the old rules for public service loan forgiveness. And so under this limited waiver, you have an opportunity to capture all of those old payments, even though they're on an ineligible repayment plan type. So very exciting time now. Just need to do your consolidation and submit your public service loan forgiveness employment form. And then wait, it's taking many, many months for this to process, but it is happening. And so pretty exciting. Please let your colleagues know that have been in practice for quite a while. If they still have federal loans, this is a great time to look into this. Feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to give you a little help on that. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but you want to make sure you're taking the right steps. Great. So these are for loans that were before 2010 on different repayment plan. And if there were errors that had happened, all of those are being corrected through the new waiver program. So here's someone who graduated in 2010. They had $200,000 in the older FFEL loan program. Their payments are $1,280 a month, and they've been paying for all this time, and their loan balance is down to just under $150. This physician is working full-time at a nonprofit organization, and now, because of the limited waiver with these 2 extra steps, that full balance of $148 will be forgiven. And it's pretty exciting. We've seen a number of these come through. It's sort of hard to believe that it's true, but it is. So if this is you, or if it's not, or you know someone who might be in this situation, please, we're trying really hard to get the word out about this. It's really important that people take action before the end of October. If you're a new grad or someone in residency now, the limited waiver won't help you. It won't hurt you. So you don't have to worry about the waiver if you're in that time group, but it is for folks that have loans that are older than 2010. All right, so here's our checklist for the waiver. It must be full-time qualifying employment. Submit your employment certification form. And if you have those older loans, the FFEL or Perkins, you'll need to apply for a direct consolidation loan at studentaid.gov. All right, so this is Dr. JC's story. Sort of similar. We met her at a family medicine education consortium meeting many years ago. She's in her second career. Being a physician was her second career, and she was nearly at the end of her 10 years of payments towards public service loan forgiveness. She had taken, very careful steps all the way along the way, and had a number of problems with her loan servicing company that we helped her correct. And she took all the steps she needed to. And then all of a sudden she got an email saying that her loans were forgiven. She wasn't expecting it. The number of payments she had was only 103. She hadn't reached the 120. And here, because of the limited waiver, they had gone back and counted some of her older payments that were on the wrong repayment plan. And so then they just forgave the balance of her loans. So it is a pretty exciting time when you have met the steps that are required. All right, we're going to shift gears now and briefly talk about refinancing student loans. So Emily, could you just check the chat to make sure we haven't missed any questions on a public service loan forgiveness topic?
Yes, no questions missed.
Okay, thank you. So refinancing is something that you would do only if you were certain you were not pursuing public service loan forgiveness, or you had loans that are private loans, not federal loans. Okay, so I just want to be very clear that if you have federal loans, you're thinking about pursuing public service loan forgiveness, and you would refinance your loans with a private company, private bank, those would no longer be eligible for public service loan forgiveness. So please be careful when you're thinking about a refinance. The reason people refinance private loans, or loans if you're not going into a eligible employer for public service loan forgiveness, is that you're going to save on your monthly payments, and you're going to save overall by reducing your reducing your interest rate on your student loan. So for example, if you're a borrower with $400,000 at a 7.15% interest rate, and you refinance to a 4.5% interest rate over a term of 10 years, you're going to be saving nearly $100,000 on your student loans. And right now, interest rates are even lower than that. We're seeing high 2s and low 3s. This can be a great opportunity for folks in this low income rate environment to lock in a low rate on their student loans. So if this is you, your first step would be to shop for interest rates. Credible.com is one of the best places to go to shop for those interest rates. You put your information in once, you get multiple offers back, and then you can compare those interest rate offers. Most physicians who are considering repaying their loans in 5 to 10 years are locking in a fixed rate rather than a variable rate, because variable rates will change. They can change either up or down every month. And because we're in such a low interest rate environment right now, it makes sense to lock in a fixed rate if you're going to be paying on these for more than just a couple of years. All right. So what other questions are out there? Please let us know.
We've got our first question here. With PLSF, you can have 120 months of payments in separate blocks, like 3 years in residency, then maybe later on at another place?
Exactly, you can.
Okay.
Yep, these required payments do not need to be consecutive.
Please feel free to come off mute and ask your question, or drop it in the chat. Another question in the chat here. Can you just refinance a private loan and not your federal loan and still qualify for PSLF?
Great question. Absolutely, you can. You have to be careful when you are doing your research and doing your application for the refinance, because they'll often pull, because it's all electronic now when you're doing these applications and even the shopping for interest rates, They're going to pull your full list of student loans. And so you just want to indicate carefully which loans you want to refinance and which ones you want to leave apart from the refinance. The other thing we've seen a couple of times is that sometimes when there is a refinance, they don't always grab all of the loans. We've seen 2 cases where they just grab the principal and not the interest. And in one case, the physician family didn't notice this until a year later, and they're like, why do I still have this $30,000 of federal loans? I thought I'd refinance them all. And so just a reminder to double check to make sure that all of your loans, the ones that you want, are getting consolidated and refinanced.
Joy, this is Christy. I'm curious, can your full-time employment status come from multiple employers? So if you were a 0.5 with one employer and a 0.5 with another, as long as they were both qualifying employers, would that count, or does it need to be one employer?
It absolutely will count.
Okay.
And in fact, the requirement is to work for 2 or more qualified employers for an annual average average hours worked of at least 30 hours a week. So it's not as many, right? It's not 40. It's not 20 hours and 20 hours. It's 2 or more employers for at least 30 hours a week. And that would include vacation time, right? Like paid time off, family medical leave, pregnancy leave. All of those would be considered times of employment. Yeah, great question, Christy.
A couple more questions.
Good one in the chat about employment in California, which I'm very curious to hear your reply.
Yeah, so someone's hoping to return to California, and there are laws that preclude nonprofit and public hospitals from directly employing physicians, therefore disqualifying many of them from public service loan forgiveness. That is true, and some of the major employers in California for physicians have those private physician groups. And so in those cases, those folks would not be eligible for public service loan forgiveness. However, we've seen many institutions creating workarounds on that. So I would, if that is your situation, you're planning to go back to California, I would be in relationship with my in-house physician recruiter to be asking those kinds of questions, because those recruiters are very used to questions about public service loan forgiveness, because so many physicians today, 3/4 of physicians have big student loans. And so it's a common question. So don't let that hold you back from your job search, but realize that that might be true for you. What we're also seeing, this is a related answer, is that many organizations that don't qualify for public service loan forgiveness understand that puts them at a competitive disadvantage. And so then they offer, in many cases, a higher signing bonus or a higher student loan incentive to help support the physician with the student loans in a way that can be very beneficial, in fact, more beneficial than using public service loan forgiveness. And one of the reasons I say that is because of that hassle factor on pursuing public service loan forgiveness. Historically, there have been lots and lots of mistakes made, not by the borrowers sometimes, but it's mostly by the loan servicing company that then creates a problem for the borrower. And so, personally speaking, having helped so many physicians through those problems and almost always being able to help resolve them, it just takes so much time and energy that in the event, if I were in your situation, I'd be looking at perhaps a private refinance without using public service loan forgiveness, unless there was some really dramatic reason to use it.
All right.
And I know that right now there's a lot of pressure to use public service loan forgiveness. It's been in the news a lot. We've seen the pendulum swing both ways on this. Right now, I think it's going to be coming back to the middle because, in my opinion, there are too many people relying on public service loan forgiveness when really it might not be your best option. So please look at both.
A few more questions. I just want to make sure you covered a lot just now, and I want to make sure all these specific questions were answered. So can you just refinance a private loan and not your federal loan and still qualify for PSLF?
Yes.
Excellent. Do you still need 120 months of repayment total within the limited waiver?
Trick question, trick question. You need 120 months in repayment, which doesn't necessarily mean having made payments. Isn't that crazy? Federal program. Because under the new IDR account adjustment, they are counting periods of forbearance of at least 12 months or cumulative 36 months as months of payment when really people hadn't made payments. So in some cases, people are having their loans forgiven without having made 120 payments. But in general, if you didn't have a long period of forbearance and you're making payments, you do need to make 120 monthly on-time qualifying payments to reach public service loan forgiveness. But the waiver can still help you, because if you have some of those old loans, and say you only have like 100 months altogether, but it's important to do those steps for the waiver to count those older months and then go forward, and you'll only have 20 months left. So yes, the waiver in general requires 120 months.
Thank you. And are all loans that show up in the studentaid.gov platform federal?
Yes, not all of them are direct. So if you pull up your TXT file at studentaid.gov, and it'll have a category of loans, you want to make sure that the word direct is in each category. If the word direct isn't in the loan type category, then it's not a direct loan. And that's how you know whether it is or it isn't.
Excellent. And interesting question here. One of our attendees has wondered what actually happens when we say refinancing occurs. Is it someone else buying the debt, or what is actually going on with the company/lender?
Yes, absolutely. It is large financial institutions that have created products that are student loan refinance products, student loan refinance loans. And so they keep their status of a student loan. So you're not refinancing into a private loan, you're refinancing still into a student loan, but on the commercial side, rather than on the federal government side. And yep, the banks are going to pay off your federal loan, and you'll have a new loan with whatever bank it is that you choose to do business with. And you'll have a new interest rate, a new term, a new promissory note, and then you'll start making payments to that new bank rather than the federal government. This wasn't specifically asked, but it just comes to mind. A number of people are using the National Health Service Corps, excuse me, for their loan repayment assistance. And if you refinance your loans are commercial loans, and they are still, yes, they will still be eligible for the National Health Service Corps loan repayment program.
Thank you. Joy, could you elaborate on other repayment options besides the PSLF that you said you might choose, and things that we have already had to commit to, like NHS, etc.?
Yeah, so there are not very many student loan repayment programs out there. There's basically 3 pathways. One would be some kind of forgiveness, right? So either through a state forgiveness program or a tribal forgiveness program or the National Health Service Corps, military, right? Those, or public service loan forgiveness. The other forgiveness program is the 20 to 25 year forgiveness program. So if you're in an income-driven repayment plan and pay for at least either 20 or 25 years, the balance is forgiven after that. That is a taxable event. So if you're pursuing that, you must be prepared to pay the taxes on whatever amount is forgiven at the end. That's currently waived through 2026, I believe. And some of us, I think that'll become permanent, but right now you have to be preparing for that. And then the third is to refinance your student loans to lower the amount you pay because of a lower interest rate. So those are the general ways that a person would go about looking at their repayment options.
Excellent. All right. Dr. Voltarelli said that they are about to graduate fellowship and go into a practice at an FQHC that will likely qualify for NHSC, which provides some amount of forgiveness. But what would make sense to combine this with PSLF? But would it make sense to combine this with PSLF?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely. A lot of times it does make sense to combine the two. Excuse me. For people in that situation, you'll want to take care in how you apply the award you receive from the National Health Service Corps. Right now, if you make a lump sum payment, say you get $25,000, that you get, usually it's $25,000 a year for 2 years of commitment. So you, if you put that $25,000 against your loan right away, it might count for 12 months of payment, or it might count for fewer than 12 months of payments, depending on when your anniversary date is for your income-driven repayment plan. So in which case you want to, so a better strategy might be to set that money aside in a bank account and make your monthly payments out of that award money. And then on your 12th payment, just pay the full amount that's due, right? Or not the full amount that's due, the full amount that's remaining in that account, because you need to show that you've used all of the award before you get the next award. So that could be a great strategy. Really, it'll depend on what your loan balance is and the size of your award, whether it's the full-time or the part-time award. And but it's definitely worth looking into. Really got to run some data on those kinds of plans.
We have another question just about resources for local payment forms like state or city options. Would you like me to go to the next slide, resources, or do you want to talk through that?
Yeah, let's go to resources. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so the U.S. Department of Education used to have a terrible website, and they have revamped it. So it is studentaid.gov. It's a fabulous resource right now for anything related to federal student loans. That PSLF help tool is the best place to generate your employment certification form. And you can find that at studentaid.gov/PSLF. The best resource for finding local opportunities would be two places. One, it's your colleagues at your current place of employment. And then the second would be the in-house physician recruiter at your organization. They typically are a wealth of information about the different repayment plans, the different forgiveness programs available. There are a number of bloggers that are also writing about this, and so you can often use the old Google search and come up with things. There's really not a national clearinghouse of this. I know the AAMC's student loan group does a nice job of keeping track of this too. But really your best resource are your local resources, other folks that are in the area looking for the same kinds of opportunities.
Any other questions?
Great questions, team. Way to go.
Hi, Joy. This is Dr. Lever. I was just going to offer, I was the one who mentioned or was willing to provide information to throw into the calculator. I don't know if that was something to do.
Oh, yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you want to, could you email me? I think my email address is on the next slide, Emily. I would love to do that. Can't do it live. It'll take a few minutes here.
Okay,
but we can
absolutely.
definitely, if you send me an email with that information, thank you for not forgetting, we will send that out to folks because it can be really tricky to figure out. So knowing your scenario will be very helpful. So we didn't want.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to go forward. Did you have a follow-up?
I was just, so what did you want? Should I just email you, say what, and then you'll tell me what to email you in full detail, or should I?
Would you email me your month that your employment will start, right? The month and date that your employment will start, what your current payment is under your current repayment strategy, and what your new attending salary would be. Oh, and also what your last year's tax return, your AGI was.
Okay.
Thank you. So simple, but really get into the weeds here. So thank you. So at the beginning, we did promise some resources, and I know there might be some extra questions here. I would love to offer you a free 15-minute call with us. Please, we can, within 15 minutes talking to you, we can let you know if what you're doing is perfect, and then just send you on your way to celebrate, because it's very exciting to know that everything is good. And so schedule a 15-minute call with us, navigate.as.me /discovery-session. And we're happy to help you with that. And if you need more help, we can talk to you about what that might look like in the future. And if you have a quick question, feel free to email. I'm happy to field questions. I'm happy to be part of the Power Hour. And thank you guys for hosting. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joy, so much for your time and expertise. Like we said, Joy is readily available and invites your outreach. You can also email me and my team. We can help make connection for you as well. We really appreciate you tuning in and hope you feel empowered going forward. So thank you again, Joy, for your expertise and your time today. Wonderful. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.